The London Underground, also known simply as the Underground or by its nickname the Tube, is a public rapid transit system serving the London region, England, and some parts of the adjacent counties of Buckinghamshire, Essex and Hertfordshire in the United Kingdom. The Underground has its origins in the Metropolitan Railway, the world's first underground passenger railway. Opened in January 1863, it is now part of the Circle, Hammersmith and City and Metropolitan lines, the first line to operate underground electric traction trains. The City and South London Railway in 1890 is now part of the Northern Line. The network has expanded to 11 lines and in 2017-2018 carried 1.357 billion of passengers, making it the world's 12th busiest metro system. The 11 lines collectively handle up to 5 million passengers a day. Despite its name, only 45% of the system is underground in tunnels, with much of the network in the outer environs of London being on the surface. In addition, the Underground does not cover most southern parts of London region, and there are only 29 stations south of the River Thames. Travel card ticket was introduced in 1983 and Oyster, a contactless ticketing system, in 2003. Contactless card payments were introduced in 2014, the first public transport system in the world to do so. The world's first underground railway, it opened on January 1863 between Paddington and Farringdon, using gas-lit wooden carriages hauled by steam locomotives. The Metropolitan District Railway opened in December 1868 from South Kensington to Westminster as part of a plan for an underground inner circle connecting London's mainline stations. The Metropolitan and District Railways completed the Circle Line in 1884. Both railways expanded the district, building 5 branches to the west, reaching Ealing, Hounslow, Uxbridge, Richmond and Wimbledon, and the Metropolitan eventually extended as far as Verney Junction in Buckinghamshire, more than 50 miles from Baker Street and the centre of the London. For the first deep-level tube line, the City and South London Railway, 2 10 feet 2 inches diameter circular tunnels were dug between King William Street, close to today's Monument Station, and Stockwell, under the roads to avoid the need for agreement with owners of property on the surface. This opened in 1890 with electric locomotives that hauled carriages with small opaque windows, nicknamed padded cells. The Waterloo and City Railway opened in 1898, followed by the Central London Railway in the 1900s. These two run electric trains in circular tunnels, having diameters between 11 feet 8 inches and 12 feet 2.5 inches, whereas the Great Northern and City Railway, which opened in 1904, was built to take main line trains from Finsbury Park to Moorgate Terminus in the city and had 16-foot diameter tunnels. While steam locomotives were in use on the Underground, there were contrasting health reports. There were many instances of passengers collapsing whilst travelling due to heat and pollution, leading for calls to clean the air through the installation of garden plants. By 1907, the District and Metropolitan Railways had electrified the underground sections of their lines. The Bakerloo line was extended north to Queen's Park to join a new electric line for Euston to Watford, and World War I delayed construction and trains reached Watford Junction in 1917. During air raids in 1915, people used the tube stations as shelters. An extension of the Central Line west to Ealing was also delayed by the war and was completed in 1920. After the war, government-backed financial guarantees were used to expand the network and the tunnels of the City and South London, and Hampstead railways were linked at Euston and Cannington. The combined service was not named the Northern Line until later. Electrification was extended north from Harrow to Rickmansworth, and branches opened from Rickmansworth to Watford in 1925 and from Wembley Park to Stanmore in 1932. The Piccadilly line was extended north to Cockfosters and took over District Line branches to Harrow, later Uxbridge and Hounslow. The 1935 to 1940 new works program included the extension of Central and Northern lines and the Bakerloo line to take over the Metropolitan's Stanmore branch. World War II suspended these plans after the Bakerloo line had reached Stanmore and the Northern line High Barnet and Mill Hill East in 1941. Following bombing in 1914, passenger services over the West London Line were suspended, leaving Olympia Exhibition Centre without a railway service until a district line shuttle from Earl's Court began after the war. After work restarted on the Central Line extensions in East and West London, these were complete in 1949. During the war, many tube stations were used as air raid shelters. On 3rd of March 1943, a test of the air raid warning sirens, together with the firing of a new type of anti-aircraft rocket, resulted in a crash of people attempting to take shelter in Bethnal Green Underground Station. A total of 173 people, including 62 children, died, making this both the worst civilian disaster of World War II and the largest loss of life in a single incident of the London Underground network. In the early 1960s, the Metropolitan Line was electrified as far as Amersham. Also during the 1960s, the Victoria Line was dug under central London and, unlike the earlier tunnels, did not follow the roads above. On 28 of February 1975, a southbound train on the Northern City Line failed to stop at its Moorgate terminus and crashed into the wall at the end of the tunnel in the Moorgate tube crash. There were 43 deaths and 74 injuries, the greatest loss of life during peacetime on the London Underground. In 1976, the Northern City Line was taken over by British Rail and linked up with the Main Line Railway at Finsbury Park. In 1979, another new tube, the Jubilee Line, named in honor of Queen Elizabeth's Silver Jubilee, took over the Stanmore branch from the Bakerloo Line, linking it to a newly constructed tube between Baker Street and Charing Cross stations. On 18 November 1987, fire broke out in an escalator at King's Cross St Pancras tube station. The resulting fire cost the lives of 31 people and injured a further 100. In 1999, the Jubilee Line was extended from Green Park Station through Docklands to Stratford Station, including the first stations on the London Underground to have platform edge doors. The Underground serves 270 stations. London Underground's 11 lines total 402 kilometers in length, making it the fourth longest metro system in the world. The Circle District, Hammersmith and the City, and Metropolitan lines form the subsurface network, with railway tunnels just below the surface and of a similar size to those on British main lines, converging on a circular bi-directional loop around Zone 1. The Bakerloo, Central, Jubilee, Northern, Piccadilly, Victoria and Waterloo and City lines are deep-level tubes with smaller trains that run in two circular tunnels, tubes with a diameter about 11 feet 8 inches. These lines have the exclusive use of a pair of tracks except the Uxbridge branch of the Piccadilly line and the Bakerloo line. Trains generally run on the left-hand track. In some places, the tunnels are above each other, for example the Central line east of St Paul Station. The average speed on the Underground is 20.5 miles per hour. The Metropolitan line can reach speeds of 62 miles per hour. All lines use fixed-length trains with between 6 and 8 cars except for the Waterloo and City line that uses 4 cars. New trains are designed for maximum number of standing passengers and for speed of access to the cars and have regenerative braking and public address systems. Since 1999, all new stocks has had to comply with accessibility regulations that require such things as access and room for wheelchairs and the size and location of door controls. In the years since the first parts of the London Underground opened, many stations and routes have been closed. Some stations were closed because of low passengers numbers, rendering them uneconomical. Some became redundant after lines were rerouted or replacements were constructed, and others are no longer served by the Underground but remain open to National Rail mainline services. A 2000 study reported that air quality was 73 times worse than at street level, with the passengers breathing the same mass of particulates during a 20-minute journey on the Northern Line as when smoking a cigarette. Originally access to the deep tube platform was by a lift. The first escalator on the London Underground was installed in 1911 between the District and Piccadilly platforms at Earl's Court, and from the following year new deep-level stations were provided with escalators instead of lifts. The first comp-type escalator was installed in 1924 at Clapham Common. In the 1920s and 1930s, many lifts were replaced by escalators. After the fatal 1987 King's Cross fire, all wooden escalators were replaced with metal ones, and the mechanisms are regularly degreased to lower the potential for fires. There are 9 fare zones. Single and return tickets are available in either format, but travel card season tickets for longer than a day are available only on Oyster cards. A concessionary fare scheme is operated by London councils for residents who are disabled or meet certain age criteria. Called Freedom Pass, it allows free travel on TfL-operated routes at all times and is valid on some national rail services within London at weekends and after 9:30 on Monday to Fridays. In addition to automatic and stuffed fare gates at stations, the Underground also operates on a proof of payment system. The system is patrolled by both uniformed and plainclothes fare inspectors with handheld Oyster card readers. The tube closes overnight during the week, but since 2016, the Central, Jubilee, Northern, Piccadilly and Victoria lines, as well as a short section of the London Overground, have operated all night on Friday and Saturday nights. The first trains run from about 5 o'clock and the last trains until just after 1 o'clock, with later starting times on Sunday mornings. Accessibility for people with limited mobility was not considered when most of the system was built, and before 1993 fire regulations prohibited wheelchairs on the Underground. The stations on the Jubilee line extension opened in 1999, were the first stations on the system designed with accessibility in mind, but retrofitting accessibility features to the older stations is a major investment that is planned to take over 20 years. As of February 2020, there are 79 stations with step-free access from platform to train, and there are plans to provide step-free access at another 19 stations by 2024. By 2016, a third of stations had platform humps that reduced the step from platform to train. New trains, such as those being introduced on the subsurface network, have access and room for wheelchairs, improved audio and visual information systems, and accessible doors control. During peak hours, stations can get so crowded that they need to be closed, some trains having more than 4 passengers every square meter. When asked, passengers report overcrowding as the aspect of the network that they are least satisfied with, and overcrowding has been linked to poor productivity and potential poor heart health. The Metropolitan Railway's original 7 stations were inspired by Italianate designs, with the platforms lit by daylight from above and by gas lights in large glass globes. Early district railway stations were similar, and on both railways, the further from central London the station, the simpler the construction. The City and South London Railway opened with red brick buildings designed by Thomas Phillips Figgis, topped with a lead-covered dome that contained the lift mechanism and weather vane. The Central London Railway appointed Harry Bell Measures as architect, who designed its pinkish-brown steel frame buildings with larger entrances. In the first decade of the 20th century, Leslie Green established a house style for the tube stations built by the UERL, which were clad in oxblood faience blocks. The Met's architect Charles Walter Clark had used the neoclassical design for rebuilding Baker Street and Paddington Pride Street stations before World War I, and although the fashion had changed, continued with the Farrington in 1923. In the 1920s and 1930s, Charles Holden designed a series of modernist and Art Deco stations, some of which he described as his brick boxes with concrete lids. Holden's design for the Underground's headquarters building at 55 Broadway included avant-garde sculptures by Jacob Epstein, Eric Gill and Henry Moore. When the Central Line was extended east, the stations were simplified Holden Proto-Brutalist designs, and the cavernous concourse built at Gaines Hill in honor of early Moscow metro stations. Few new stations were built in the 50 years after 1948, but Misha Black was appointed design consultant for the 1960s Victoria line, contributing to the line's uniform look, with each station having an individual tile motif. Notable stations from this period include Moore Park, the stations of the Piccadilly line extension to Heathrow and Hillingdon. The stations of the 1990s extension of the Jubilee line were much larger than before and designed in a high-tech style by architects such as Norman Foster and Michael Hopkins, making extensive use of exposed metal plating. West Ham station was built as a homage to the red brick tube stations of the 1930s using brick, concrete and glass. Many platforms have unique interior designs to help passenger identification. The tiling at Baker Street incorporates repetitions of Sherlock Holmes' silhouette. At Tottenham Court Road, semi-abstract mosaics by Edoardo Paolozzi feature musical instruments, tape machines and butterflies. And at Charing Cross, Davy Gentleman designed the mural depicting the construction of the Eleanor Cross. Robin Denai designed the murals on the Northern Line platforms at Embankment. By the time London Transport was formed in 1933, the UERL was considered a patron of the arts and over 1,000 works were commissioned in the 1930s, such as the cartoon images of Charles Barton and Coffer's later abstract cubist and surrealist images. Art on the Underground was introduced in 1986 by Henry Fitzburg to revive London Transport as a patron of the arts. The Underground commissioned 6 works a year, judged first on artistic merit. The Docklands Light Railway (DLR) is an automated light metro system opened in 1987 to serve the redeveloped Docklands area of East London, England. It reaches north to Stratford, south to Lewisham across the River Thames, west to Tower Gateway and Bank in the City of London Financial District, and east to Beckton, London City Airport, and to Woolwich Arsenal south of the river. The system uses minimal staffing on trains, and at major interchange stations, the 4 below-ground stations are staffed to comply with underground station fire and safety requirements. In 2017-2018, the DLR carried 121.8 million passenger journeys. It has been extended several times and further extensions are under consideration. The line was formally opened by Queen Elizabeth II on 30th of July 1987 and passenger services began on 31st of August. The initial system comprised 2 routes from Tower Gateway and Stratford to Island Gardens. It was mainly elevated on disused railway viaducts or new concrete viaducts and adopted disused surface railway formations between Poplar and Stratford. The trains were fully automated, controlled by computer and had no driver. A passenger service agent (PSA) on each train, originally referred to as train captain, was responsible for patrolling the train, checking tickets, making announcements and controlling the doors. PSAs could take control of the train in circumstances including equipment failure and emergencies. The system was lightweight, with stations designed for trains of only a single articulated vehicle. The 3 branches totaled 13 kilometers, had 15 stations and were connected by a flat triangular junction near Poplar. Services ran from Tower Gateway to Island Gardens and from Stratford to Island Gardens. The initial system had a relatively low capacity, but the Docklands area very quickly developed into a major financial center and employment zone, increasing traffic. Stations and trains were extended to 2-unit length and the system was expanded into the heart of the City of London to Bank through a tunnel which opened in 1991. This extension left Tower Gateway on a stub. The original trains were not suitable for underground usage due to not meeting the fire safety laws for underground trains. The east of Docklands needed better transport connections to encourage development, and a 4th branch towards Beckton was planned with several route options available. A route from Poplar via Canning Town and the north side of the Royal Docks complex was chosen and opened in 1994. The Lewisham extension opened on 22nd of November 1999 It left the Island Gardens route south of Cross Harbour, turned back sidings and dropped gently to Mudchute. The line then entered a tunnel following the route of the viaduct to a shallow subsurface station at Island Gardens. It crossed under the Thames to Cutty Sark in the centre of Greenwich and surfaced at Greenwich railway station. The line snaked on a concrete viaduct to Deptford Bridge before descending to Illerson Road at street level, terminating in two platforms between and below the main line platforms at Lewisham railway station. On 2nd of December 2005, an eastward branch along the approximate route of the former Eastern Counties and Thames Junction Railway on the southern side of the Royal Docks complex opened from Canning Town to King George V via London City Airport. A further extension from King George V to Woolwich Arsenal opened on 10th of January 2009. In addition to the three-car station extensions, part of which was funded from the 2012 Olympics budget, a line was opened from Canning Town to Stratford and Stratford International Railway Station along the former North London line of the National Railway System with additional stations. It parallels the London Underground Jubilee line for much of its length. The extension suffered some delay in opening, being completed in August 2011. It provides a direct link between two of the major Olympics locations, the Stadium and Park at Stratford and the Excel adjacent to Custom House on the Beckton line. The DLR has 38 kilometers of tracks with 45 stations. There are 6 branches, to Lewisham in the south, Stratford and Stratford International in the north, Beckton and Woolwich Arsenal in the east, and central London in the west, splitting to Bank and Tower Gateway. The northern, southern and southeastern branches terminate at the National Rail stations at Stratford, Stratford International, Lewisham and Woolwich Arsenal. Between Limehouse and Tower Gateway, the DLR runs parallel to the London, Tilbury and Southend Railway. Most stations are elevated, with others at street level in cutting or underground. Access to the platforms is mostly by staircase and lift, with escalators at some stations. From the outset, the system has been fully accessible to wheelchairs. The stations have high platforms matching the floor height of the cars, allowing level access for passengers with wheelchairs or pushchairs. On 3rd of July 2007, DLR officially launched an art program called DLR Art, similar to that on the London Underground, Art on the Underground. The system is part of the London Fair Zone system, and travel cards that cover the appropriate zones are valid. There are one-day and season DLR-only rover tickets. Oyster Pay As You Go is also available, or NFC-enabled bank card holders, contactless. Passengers need to touch both in and out on the platform readers or pass through the automatic gates. Tickets can be purchased from ticket machines at the entrance to the platforms and are required before entering the platform. The DLR has been successful, as have other recent light rail systems. However, the DLR has been criticized for having been designed with insufficient capacity to meet the demand that quickly arose. Each car has 4 doors on each side, and 2 or 3 cars make up a train. The top speed is 100 km per hour. Despite having high floors and being automated, the cars are derived from a German light rail design intended for street running. B2007 units were purchased from Bombardier in 2005 and delivered between 2007 and 2010. Daily ridership is 340,000 passengers in 2017. Annual ridership is 121.8 million passengers in 2018